Welcome to A Balanced Life on the Go. I'm Dr. Nicole Lindsay, your host on this podcast, along with Dr. Brian Jeanette. This is a podcast designed to help connect you to a more balanced life on the go. Each week, we will bring you simple, concise, and easy to implement ideas, tips, and strategies to help you connect to better nutrition, movement, and thinking so you can achieve balance in your busy life. Isn't this what life is all about? Trying to achieve balance so that we can be healthy, happy, and live to our fullest potential. We're glad you joined us. Let's get started. Hey, everybody.
What's going on, guys?
Welcome. This is podcast number 12. Are you getting your Z's?
Most of the time I do. Most of the time I'm pretty good, but every once in a while, sometimes you can't.
I hear ya. And there's a lot of people out there that are not getting their Z's. So this podcast is all about how to fix your sleep problems.
Yeah, sleep problems are such a big issue here in the United States, especially with our young kids, our adolescents, our teenagers. Even with adults.
Yeah.
Right?
I read a snippet from the CDC, Morbidity and Mortality. A study showed one-third, actually more than one-third of Americans in the U.S., well, where else would Americans be, are not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
So it's a huge problem. How much sleep should we be getting?
So they do give some recommendations. The National Sleep Institute does give some recommendations on sleep. Anyone that's an adolescent, say 24 and under, 23 and under, high school age, they need over 9 hours of sleep per day.
I can tell you my daughter's not doing that.
Yeah, which the average teenager adolescent gets less than 7 hours.
Wow.
So they're getting almost 3 hours less than what they need to be optimal. If you're ages 26 to 65, your optimal range is between 7 and 9 hours. So I'm in that age group, and I get about 7.5 usually. And if you're over 65 years old, your optimal range for sleep is 7 hours to 8 hours. So it's actually a much more narrow window. And they give that narrow window for people that are over 65 so they can combat dementia and Alzheimer's. They've actually linked, in some cases, sleeping too much, napping too often, as an increased risk for dementia and Alzheimer's. Yeah,
there's so many reasons why we need to sleep, and what's crazy is that, I mean, I hear it, you probably do when you're working on patients all the time. We ask, are you sleeping? And they say, yeah, I get about 6 hours. I feel good on 6 hours. It's like, well, that's great, but that's not enough. Your body needs more.
Yeah. Do you want to feel good, or do you want to feel your best?
Or do you want to prevent some serious health issues?
Yeah.
More importantly. But yes, it is a sleep problem. So sleeping 6 hours, if you're 66 years old, it's simply not enough. Even though you're not moving as enough, we hear that a lot too. Well, I'm not as active as what I used to be. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
You still need the proper amount of sleep.
There's that fine line that we have to walk, or that we should walk with sleep, because as we age, as we change, when we're 6 or 7 years old, all the way up to being 70 or 80 years old, biologically, neurochemically, we're constantly changing. We're constantly in flux. Your brain, as me being a 30-year-old, is different from when I was 15 or when I was 12, right?
Sure.
So it's always changing, it's always in flux, and we have to change and adapt to the way we do things.
Yeah, and sleep, it's a barometer of your health. It tells us so much. It's not, I feel personally that it is underrated. Your sleep needs to be checked just like your blood pressure, just like your heart rate, just like your body temperature. It's something that you need to know. How is my sleep? Is it where it should be for my age, number one? And number two, is it restful? Is it the quality sleep that I need? And if it's not, then that is your body's way of giving you a signal that something's wrong. It's like the oil light coming on.
Just happened to you.
Just happened to me today in the dashboard of my car. And what did I do? I drove it right to the mechanic because something's going on with the engine.
Yeah.
So,
thought you were going to say that you ignored it.
No.
When we talk about sleep in society, sleep is always one of those things that is perceived as a luxury, right? Sleep is a luxury for those who are ambitious, and sleep is a luxury for those who are active and want to strive to be successful and to be better. But what we know now is that sleep is a necessity for those who are ambitious.
Totally.
And sleep is a necessity for the successful.
Everybody, even the people that don't want to push themselves,
Yeah.
you still need proper sleep. So what's really cool is that we used to think that when you slept, your brain kind of shut down, would go in a dormant state. But we know through more recent research that that is not the case, that your brain is actually engaged in all kinds of activities that are necessary for your life.
Growth and development. One of
Healing.
the primary, healing. One of the primary things that sleep does is when you sleep, your brain actually traps and locks in memories. It's one of those things that when we're 60, 70, 80 years old, we can remember things that happened to us when we were 6 or 7. Your brain is locking those down.
Yeah, so let's break it down a little bit and talk about what happens when you sleep from a physiological standpoint, because this will help you understand where your problems lie and how you can fix that. But wait a minute, we've got to do something important first. We have to know what socks you're wearing today, Dr. Brian.
I'm wearing socks that were a gift from Dr. Nicole. Nice and striped, so I'm wearing blue pants, red shirt. So what am I wearing?
A little red, white, blue.
There it is.
Awesome. Very patriotic today. So back to the brain. So your brain, actually, when you're sleeping, it cycles repeatedly through 2 different types of sleep. You have your non-REM sleep, and then you have your REM sleep. And REM, for those of you that you may have heard that, it's not just a band that plays really good music, but it means rapid eye movement. So the first part of the sleep cycle is going to be the non-REM sleep, and that's separated into 4 stages. So the first stage of that sleep is your brain is in between a wake state and a falling asleep state. The second stage is the light sleep, and that's where your body temperature drops, your heart rate and breathing starts to regulate. And then the third and fourth stages, that's where you go into that deep, deep non-REM sleep. And this, just like Dr. Brian just said, this non-REM sleep is most important for learning, memory. It's going to give you your most restful sleep and your most restorative phase of sleep. So if you're not getting quality sleep in that cycle, in that non-REM stage of your sleep, then you're going to have trouble with memory, learning, and not feeling restful. The second part of the sleep cycle is that REM. And this is where your breathing rate increases, your body becomes temporarily paralyzed as you dream. That's where the dream happens. So your brain is actually cycling 4 or 5 times between non-REM and REM throughout your entire time sleeping, with less time in that deep stage of 3 and 4 of the first cycle. So that's basically what's happening to your brain and your body while you sleep.
I think that's also we can contribute this to, when you wake up, there's some mornings when you wake up and you feel super refreshed and super alert. You've just exited one of those stages of deep sleep, and you're rested and rejuvenated, right? Your brain activity goes up a little bit, some of those brain waves change, and you feel good, you feel alert. But we've all had those times where we wake up a couple times through the night, we haven't had that deep sleep, and our alarm goes off and we just cannot wake up. That means, typically what that means is that we woke up right in the middle of that restful part of our sleep phase, and we weren't able to finish out that phase of deep sleep where we're actually resting and recovering, and we cut it short. We cut it right in the middle of it, and so it's so hard to wake up from that.
Yeah, it's really cool to think about the brain and how it's integrated in this process so much of sleep, and how
every little thing matters. And we're going to talk about that over the next few minutes too, how you can get a better idea of what you're lacking, what your body needs to help restore your sleep and get it into a better phase so you can feel more restful and have, better sleep. But one thing I want to talk about is the term brain plasticity. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of that. Have you?
I have. And, when it comes to anything in regards to the brain, as chiropractors, that's
what we do.
That's our mojo right there.
Yeah.
We work on the nervous system, which is your brain and your spinal cord. Contrary to popular belief, a lot of people think that we only work on back muscles or back pain, but we work on your brain. We stimulate your brain. Every time we give you an adjustment, we are helping to regulate your brain to communicate better to your body, whether it mean help you get more sleep, help your digestion, help reduce your pain, all of it. So your brain, what that means, brain plasticity, that's your brain's ability to adapt to input. So things that go on throughout the day, your brain at night takes that information and stores it for memory for later. It processes it. It does what it does with that information so that you can use it later, whether it's recall or use it for organization or whatever your brain is using that information for. When you're not sleeping, your body, that brain plasticity is impaired. So all the information that happened that your brain took in throughout the day, when you're not sleeping, your brain cannot process it properly. So this is where we start to get trouble recalling, remembering things in the future. And a lot of people will just say, I'm just getting older. My memory's going bad because I'm just getting older. Well,
I hear that all the time.
How many hours are you sleeping a night?
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
This could be part of it. The other thing, and you touched on this, is that your brain, your body produces waste all day long. Just like you. How many times you go to the bathroom a day? That's waste, right? I mean, it's a part of...
Are you asking me? Do you want me to tell you?
we'll do a podcast on that. So your brain actually is made up of cells that has waste material produced every minute of the day. So when you sleep at night, that waste material is removed.
It's constantly cycling through your brain and cycling through your spinal cord.
When you don't sleep, your brain cannot flush out that waste material.
It's built up in your brain, yeah.
Foggy thinking, confusion, memory loss, on and on and on.
And not to mention other hormonal changes that some hormones are made in your brain. And when your brain is backed up like that, it can't function properly. And so the rest of your body can suffer. Could be your thyroid, for instance, could be your heart.
Hormones.
Your
digestion.
adrenal glands, yeah.
Everything is affected. So sleep affects so many things. If we haven't made this point enough to you in this podcast, I don't know what will do it, but sleep is vital. We need to sleep. So let's talk about what happens when you don't get enough sleep.
So one of the things that I particularly found interesting and wanted to touch on was some of the consequences, some of the outward consequences of sleep deprivation, right? We touched on some adolescents, kids, especially in high school, and I actually found this study that was out of Canada where they took two groups of high school kids. They were in 9th grade. They started their school at 8:30 in the morning. What they did the next year was they started them 1 hour earlier at 7:30. So these kids had much less sleep. And what they found was that they were unable to maximize their learning. Their problem solving was decreased. Their coping mechanisms with stress were decreased. Some of them were even driving very tired or drowsy driving. Some of them even had displayed emotional and behavior problems like depression, irritability. One of the things that blew my mind the most was that they had a decreased impulse control when it came to violence. So they were more likely to have emotional, violent outbursts when they were irritable, when they were tired, or when they were depressed. And this, some cases, can lead to a use or abuse of alcohol or tobacco, which they noted that a couple of the kids, because of this inability to control their emotions, led them more easily down that road.
All from not sleeping enough.
Yeah.
So there you have it. And some of the other things it causes, depression, symptoms of depression, seizures, high blood pressure, migraines, weak immune system. Your metabolism can get repaired. I read an article that said 1 night of missed sleep in an adult can create a pre-diabetic state.
Yeah.
So setting you up for diabetes.
Your hormones get thrown way out of whack, and lack of sleep or sleep deprivation, not getting enough of your Z's, is directly linked to type 2 diabetes. And you cannot throw a rock in any direction without hitting somebody in the United States with type 2 diabetes.
Right. It's very prevalent. And then the hormone issue, when we're dealing with women with menopausal issues, hormone issues, and men with low testosterone, right? And they want, how do I fix that? I need shots. I need this. I need drugs. How are you sleeping? How are you sleeping? And most of the time, that man is not getting enough sleep, and that causes low testosterone.
Oh, I sleep terrible. I go to bed late. I'm restless. I wake up 5 or 6 times to go to the bathroom, and then every time I wake up, it takes me like 20 minutes to go back to sleep. Hear it all the time.
So what are the causes of poor sleep? There are many, and this is not just a lack of Ambien. That's what it burns me up. And look, I love working with medical doctors. We collaborate with them all the time. I totally respect them, and we use them. But when it comes to sleep, you have to figure out the problem. We're going to give you at least 6 causes of sleep issues right now. That's not even
scratching the surface.
Yes.
Yeah.
So hormones, we just started talking about that. So if you have a hormonal issue, like, for example, too much cortisol in your system because you're under a lot of stress right now, perhaps your adrenals are shot. We did a podcast on adrenal fatigue and recovery. If you want to learn more about that, check that podcast out for sure. But weak adrenals will cause too much cortisol in your body, and that will create sleep issues.
One of the other things that we talked about was type 2 diabetes, being at risk for type 2 diabetes. You get tired, you get very lethargic. What's your body do? Your body tries to increase the amount of glucose that's in your body, so it produces more, it lets more out into your bloodstream, so you have high blood sugar levels, which is what? Pre-diabetic diabetes, which is issues right there.
Too much estrogen in the body. So we talked about the women going through menopause or perimenopausal. If they have too much estrogen, that can cause sleep issues. Thyroid hormones, whether it be hypo or hyper. The hyperthyroidism is if you have too much of the thyroid hormone, it's going to increase your metabolism, make you anxious, and impair your sleep.
Change your body temperatures.
Too much or too little thyroid hormones is going to cause issues with glucose, serotonin, and melatonin metabolism, and mess with your sleep as well.
Yeah. One of the other things that people don't think about is actually where their Wi-Fi router and modem are placed in the house. Some people place them in their bedrooms. Well, what that does is that actually sends out electromagnetic waves, and that can mess with our brain chemistry. That can mess with the way that our brain functions and our brain waves.
Yeah, and that can be going on all night long.
Yeah.
So I know people use their phones as their alarm, and they charge their phone on their nightstand table, but...
always put it on airplane mode or put it in another room.
Exactly. Another cause to poor sleep could be your mattress. 1/3 of your life is sleeping. That's quite a bit, right?
I'm okay with it because sleeping is wonderful.
I love to sleep too. I do. I love my sleep. But a poor mattress, if it's too old, if it's not the correct support, this can be a problem and can impair your sleep.
Telling you, it's like the story with the princess and the pea, where she can feel the pea underneath the mattress. That happens all the time. Just last week, we had a patient coming in that we've been treating for neck pain, and then she says, "Oh, my low back hurts. I don't know why my low back hurts." And so we start talking about sleep and mattress. She's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about it. We just put a hard piece of wood underneath the mattress, and I sleep on it." And they pulled up the mattress, looked at the plywood, and there was a little bump in the plywood, like a little tiny bump, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I could feel this. It was digging straight into my back." We're sensitive to that stuff.
There you have it. And we will do a podcast all on mattresses because that's a question we get a lot.
Huge hot topic.
Yes. Another cause can be your diet.
Listen, this is a whole podcast. This is a whole podcast series about diet, nutrition. But the one thing is not having a really heavy meal before bed. That heavy meal just sits in your stomach and it causes more blood flow to the area. It can disrupt the way that you feel, the way that you think.
For sure. And then, of course, eating too many processed carbs and just processed foods in general, sugar, that's going to affect your digestion. And what's really interesting is a few years ago, I went through a phase where I was not sleeping. And I'm talking months and months of terrible insomnia. And I'm the type of person, I sleep 8-9 hours, solid sleep a night, have always done that. And I could not sleep. And I started trying to figure this out because knowing what I know, it means something. And I was told by my medical doctor, by my OBGYN, that I was just getting old, that this was just a product of being nervous and anxious about life and stress, and that my body was just aging. But meanwhile, I'm totally sleep deprived, and I feel that that's not enough of an answer, that something is wrong. And so I did a lot of research and met with some really good functional medicine doctors as well during this time, and learned that I was sensitive to gluten. And what was happening was the gluten was impairing my digestive tract. And I'd been eating gluten my whole life. And of course, the wheat's changed over the years too. It's gotten worse. And I wasn't careful about the quality of wheat that I was eating. So little by little, my gut lining became unhealthy. Now, serotonin is produced in your gut, some of it. So if you have sleeping problems, that could mean that your gut lining is impaired, and it was the case for me because once I got gluten out of my diet, also did some adrenal work, then I got my sleep back. So diet's major.
I'm also stuck on the fact that you were in your 30s and your doctor told you that you were old.
Yeah.
You should find a new doctor.
Yeah, I have.
Just making sure.
I fired them for sure. So let's talk about how we fix this stuff. So you know that you're not getting enough sleep. Your sleep's not restful. What can you do about this?
So some of the things that we can do about this is that we can use supplements for this. So one of the major supplements that when people have trouble sleeping that we talk about is the supplement called GABA, G-A-B-A. And GABA is a neurotransmitter that's produced in our body. And what it does is it helps to calm down brain activity. So if we think about two different types of cells or two different types of nerves that we have in our brain, we have nerves that excite our body and excite our brain, and we have nerves that calm down and help rest and digest our body. Well, without GABA available in our brain, we can never calm down and rest and digest our nervous system. So when you go to sleep at night, you're feeling incredibly tired throughout the day, and then you're so excited for bedtime, you get in bed, and what happens? You are wired. It's like it blows your mind that you're so tired throughout the day, and then now it's time to sleep, and you're like, I can't sleep. What am I going to do? Your eyes are like bright, like wide open, your eyes are bloodshot. That's what this supplement helps to do. And so most people, we recommend taking one starting with 100 to 200 milligrams of GABA before bedtime. And this dose varies. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down based on your sensitivity. It's definitely different if you are a pregnant female, or if of course you're going to be female, but if you're pregnant. So that definitely can change based on that.
Yeah, we talked about adrenal fatigue and cortisol levels. So if you feel that your stress has been really high lately and your sleep is affected, then you can use some zinc at night. A zinc supplement will help break that and help your sleep as well.
One of the other supplements that we talk about is, actually Dr. Nicole just talked about this, serotonin. And serotonin helps us to calm down as well. I don't necessarily like to tell patients that they should take serotonin or even melatonin, because that can throw off some of the other hormones and chemicals in our body. But what I do tell patients to take is something called 5-HTP. And what that does is 5-HTP your body can use to convert to serotonin. So you're giving your body the raw building blocks to make the hormone neurotransmitter that can help calm us down and help put us in a restful state. And if your body needs it, it will convert it. So that's why I don't like to give serotonin, because if that might not be the issue, then you just have so much serotonin built up in your body, and then your body kind of goes, what in the world? Why do I have so much serotonin? Then it stops producing serotonin.
Yeah, that can happen. Another supplement is L-theanine, and that is that's an amino acid. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, and that increases your alpha wave, which mimics the waves during your sleep cycle, the deep sleep cycle. So a lot of times people will say that they have trouble staying asleep, and that we found that L-theanine can really help them stay asleep.
Yeah. One of the special things about L-theanine is that it also helps to boost that GABA neurotransmitter that we were talking about. We tell patients to typically start out with about 50 to 200 milligrams, and then we can even work up to 400 milligrams a day with that. So that one's generally pretty safe to do. There's a couple. Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say one of the supplements we carry is Mintran for mini tranquilizer, because it actually does that. It's natural. It's a mega dose of calcium and magnesium, and it relaxes your body and your nervous system and helps you sleep.
So when we do Mintran, typically what we say is if you're really, really bad, we take 4 of those pills, 4 of the little supplement pills, a couple times a day. And even especially at night when you're trying to relax, because it just helps relax your muscles as well. But going back to the supplements, one of the special things that magnesium does is to help maintain the levels of GABA.
All works together.
Going back to it, so they all play on each other.
Yes. So some of the other things that you can do to help with your sleep is to get into a rhythm and get consistent with your sleep. And I oftentimes have to start here with patients, because I find that they don't go to bed at the same time every night. They're all over the place. Kids are notorious for that too. They have weekends with their friends. They're up till 1 in the morning, and then school comes, and then they
1 in the morning.
Test. Yeah.
3 or 4.
Yeah. Right. All night long. Sometimes they pull all-nighters too, and I remember those days. But this can really affect your sleep cycle. So just being consistent. Trying to go to bed when the sun goes down at 9 o'clock at night, and sometimes that can be really hard, especially for the night owls. But if you're having trouble getting more than 5-6 hours of sleep, then you really have to start breaking those patterns and those cycles and getting your body and your brain in line with the circadian rhythms of the universe and start going to bed earlier.
Yeah, and finding that rhythm, it's going to be different for everybody, right? Some people might have to go to bed right at 9 o'clock because they have to get up at 4:45 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning. Some people that don't have to be up till 8 or 9 o'clock, maybe 10 o'clock, maybe can go to bed at 10 or 11. But the important thing is that you're maintaining that rhythm all week with no exception. Weekends are the same as weekdays. Go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah, and doing things like no TV before bed, staying away from the bad news and the stuff that's going to get you riled up, or a movie where there's lots of violence and stuff that keeps you awake at night. Doing that, doing something like journaling and prayer, meditation, something that's going to get your brainwave patterns in a better state for sleep. And then exercise. Of course, that's going to help you sleep more than anything. Really.
Anybody who exercises consistently knows that they probably have a tougher time going to sleep on days that they don't exercise.
Yeah, exercise is key.
Yeah.
And then, of course, eating right. No alcohol, coffee, chocolate, tea. Before bed, definitely no caffeine before 2 p.m. After 2 p.m.
Before 2 p.m.
Caffeine before 2 p.m. all morning long. But after 2 p.m., that will disrupt your sleep cycle. And sometimes as much as 1 cup can do it.
Absolutely.
So people are sensitive to it. You can also wear a sleep mask, getting drapes that black out the room, blocking the blue light, getting the Wi-Fi.
They call that sleeping like a caveman. Completely pitch black, no lights, no sounds. Take out your alarm clocks, that bright, like, red light. If it's anything like my clock that I took out of my room, the little colon in the middle, like the numbers, like blinks on mine.
Yeah.
Like, why does it blink?
Right, yeah, that disrupts those chemicals that are being produced by your brain to put you into these sleep cycles. So all of that it all plays a part. When you go to brush your teeth right before bed, don't turn on all the lights in the bathroom. That stops the production of melatonin in your brain. Keep the lights off, get a little night light, shut your eyes, go into the bedroom and brush your teeth. Figure it out so that you're not interrupting these patterns in your brain.
They actually make special light bulbs that kind of filter out that UV type light that wake us up. And these special light bulbs kind of signal that the sun's going down and that they let your body know that, hey, I need to start winding down. I need to start, getting my body prepared to go to bed.
So there you have it. Is there anything else you want to add for fixing sleep problems?
Fixing sleep problems, yes. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the one thing that I want you to do that I want to take away from this entire podcast. And that is remove all sources of anxiety from your room. And sources of anxiety can be anything. For some people it's
Can be your spouse.
Can be your spouse, right?
Separate beds.
Yeah, kick them out, separate beds. If they snore, they have sleep apnea, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They toss and turn, right? But sources of anxiety could be your work, right? Some people do work in bed.
Yeah.
Take that out. Do that in a separate room. Have a separate space where you can work.
Social media.
That
could be stressful.
On your cell phone, yeah. Computers, TV. And make your room a place of serenity. Your room is a place for only having sex and sleeping. That's what it's meant for. Just like your dining room table is only meant for school projects and eating. Right?
I like it. So there you have it. There's your one thing. If you're having sleep issues and you're a patient, make sure you tell us so that we can help you sift through this info and help you figure this out. Get that oil light taken care of, repair that engine in your body so that you can avoid health problems and just be healthier.
Right on.
So thank you for listening. Stay tuned to our next podcast.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Balanced Life on the Go.
Heck yeah.